Good evening, I'm Camelia and this is KiniNews. DAP has accused PAS of using divisive tactics to undermine Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's administration. This was in response to a statement by PAS President Abdul Hadi Awang. DAP Secretary General Anthony Loke has hit out at PAS President Abdul Hadi Awang for trying to drag DAP into the addendum issue involving former Premier Najib Abdul Razak's case. Loke denounced Hadi's repeated political strategy of blaming DAP for every issue under the slogan, "Everything is DAP's fault," saying it was a despicable tactic. He stressed that DAP leaders, especially those in the cabinet, are not involved in the addendum issue. Loke highlighted how matters related to pardons fall under the jurisdiction of the Pardons Board, which does not involve the cabinet. He also pointed out that there is no DAP representative in the Pardons Board. Loke added that the Pardons Board operates under the advice of the Attorney General to the Yang di-Pertuan Agong. Loke then accused PAS of employing divisive and underhanded political tactics to destabilize Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim's administration and undermine the federal coalition government. He said they are power-hungry and desperate, resorting to any means to achieve their political ambitions of taking over Putrajaya. Earlier today, Hadi had weighed in on the royal addendum controversy, criticizing Pakatan Harapan DAP. Hadi had claimed that it had exposed the true nature of the Pakatan Harapan government, dominated by DAP, which opposed the principles of secularism embedded in the party's constitution and the statements of its leaders. Meanwhile, PKR Youth has urged BN not to fall for the political sentiments stirred by the opposition over the royal addendum. PKR Youth has called on parties in the government, especially BN, to stand firm against political sentiments stirred up by the Perikatan Nasional over the royal addendum involving former Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak. This comes as the opposition targets Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim and Pakatan Harapan on the issue. In a statement today, PKR Information Chief Nabil Halimi highlighted the achievements of the Harapan-BN collaboration under the Madani government, including increased investments, controlled inflation, and international recognition of Malaysia's progress. He said these joint efforts must continue undisturbed by sentiment-driven politics or tactics aimed at destabilizing the unity government. He added that they shouldn't allow such political maneuvers to disrupt the unity they have built for the nation's sake. Nabil also accused the opposition of exploiting the royal addendum for political mileage. He questioned the sincerity of their stance, highlighting previous criticism from PN leaders such as Saifuddin Abdullah and Wan Ahmad Faisal Wan Ahmad Kamal on Najib's role in the 1MDB scandal. He said the shift in their position raises questions about their sincerity and underlying motives. Still on the topic, a PKR MP has rebutted criticism against Anwar Ibrahim on the issue and said that there was no need for him to resign as Prime Minister. PKR MP Hassan Karim said Prime Minister Anwar Ibrahim does not need to resign over the royal addendum issue as demanded by certain parties. He said this following the court's decision to grant Najib Abdul Razak leave for a judicial review over a royal addendum, which would allow the latter to be held under house arrest. In a statement, he said that Anwar should be praised for his commitment to upholding judicial independence. Elaborating, he said Anwar personally and as Prime Minister cannot arbitrarily comment on whether the royal addendum exists or not. He said credit or praise should be given to Anwar, who has repeatedly stated and explained in and out of Parliament that the government and he as Premier cannot interfere with court proceedings and judicial decisions. Hassan also stated that Najib submitted his pardon application to the Pardons Board, chaired by the Yang di-Pertuan Agong, and Anwar is not directly involved in the board's decision-making process. He added that Anwar fully understands his role as Prime Minister and the responsibilities of the Attorney General and the judiciary under the principle of separation of powers. Before we move on, if you'd like access to news like this and more, scan the QR code on the screen and subscribe to Malaysia Kini. Tiong King Sing has also called for political stability and hit out at attempts to destabilize the government. Tourism, Arts and Culture Minister Tiong King Sing has criticized ongoing efforts by some parties to destabilize the government by advocating leadership changes outside the democratic election process. Without naming anyone, he warned that such actions threaten the nation's unity, security and international reputation. In a statement this morning, Tiong, who is also the president of Sarawak's Progressive Democratic Party, called for an end to these destabilizing attempts. He highlighted Malaysia's recent political stability and gradual economic recovery as achievements born out of collective efforts between the government and the people. He said speculation about leadership changes could undermine the government's momentum in attracting investments and strengthening the economy. He added that Anwar should be allowed to complete his 5-year term. Tiong argued that the leadership should be judged based on the government's overall performance at the end of its mandate. He said at the next general election, the Rakyat will have the opportunity to evaluate the government's 5-year performance, particularly its efforts to improve livelihoods and the economy, and decide whether a leadership change is warranted. Reflecting on past political turmoil, he reminded Malaysians of the detrimental effects of frequent leadership changes, which had disrupted governance and caused significant hardship for citizens. Tiong urged all parties to prioritize long-term stability over short-term political agendas. Najib Abdul Razak's 1MDB trial continued today, with the former premier testifying that he had not directed for the disbandment of the 1MDB task force. Former Prime Minister Najib Abdul Razak has testified it was not his directive for the multi-agency 1MDB Special Task Force to be disbanded in 2015. He said he had also never directed for a change of Attorney General and MACC Chief Commissioner that same year. He said the changes in leadership at both the MACC and the Attorney General's chambers were part of an administrative reshuffling and had nothing to do with any directive for interference from him. He added that the separate 1MDB investigation by a special task force consisting of Bank Negara Malaysia, the MACC, AGC and police still continued. He said that the claim that then AG Abdul Ghani Patail's replacement was an attempt to hinder investigations into 1MDB is false. He also stated that claims that he took steps to cause the removal of Abu Qasim Mohammed as the MACC Chief Commissioner and influenced the closure of the 1MDB case was entirely baseless and misconceived. Najib added that the MACC continued its investigations into 1MDB under new leadership and there was no interruption in its work. Najib emphasized that such transitions in leadership are routine in governance and do not imply malfeasance or ulterior motives. Dr. Mahathir Mohamad believes that UMNO could have gone ahead with the solidarity rally for Najib yesterday. Let's take a look at what he said about the matter. Former Prime Minister Dr. Mahathir Mohamad believes that cooperation between UMNO and PAS could lead to the former being kicked out of the federal government. He was commenting on the rally for former Premier Najib Abdul Razak held outside the Court of Appeal in Putrajaya yesterday. In a post on X last night, he said the Istana Negara statement was an explanation of appeals for clemency. He stated that UMNO could have continued the rally despite the palace's statement. Mahathir pointed out that the Yang di-Pertuan Agong statement did not prohibit the planned rally and it could have been continued by UMNO. However, he said if the UMNO-PAS cooperation continued, UMNO may be expelled from the Pakatan Harapan government. According to him, this is because DAP opposes UMNO's cooperation with PAS. He said the fate of UMNO leaders could be affected if they are no longer in the government and UMNO leaders are forced to rely on DAP for support to ensure their security. Although UMNO cancelled its plan to rally, it did not stop several party leaders from showing up at the Palace of Justice yesterday. Previously, UMNO President Ahmad Zahid Hamidi warned that party members who took part in the rally would have to handle the risks themselves. That is all from me today. For more stories, you can go to Kinitv.com. You can also follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Facebook for the latest news updates. I'm Camelia. Thanks for watching.